Bring to us your poetry from inspiration sought. Come join us with your images, your verses, words, and thought. From here, we'll share your balladry with those who do not know it. The platform's here for you to show the world that you're the poet.
Welcome to episode 66 of You're the Poet, the poetry podcast featuring you. I'm host Matt Burgio, and I'm here with co-host Phil Burgio. Phil, welcome.
Happy to be here.
Here at You're the Poet, our purpose is to share our love of poetry with the world and invite you to do the same. We want to start by saying thank you to all of our listeners who have made You're the Poet possible. We hope you enjoy the podcast and the poetry that is shared. If you've written any poetry and you want to share it here, whether you just have an interest in poetry, consider yourself an amateur poet, or are a professional poet with published works, contact us to be a guest on a future episode. Our featured guest for this episode of You're the Poet is returning guest Jodi Harsh, who is joining us from Lima, Ohio. Jodi, welcome back to You're the Poet.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Phil. I'm so excited to be here. I love doing this sort of thing, especially with you guys. You guys make it easy.
Well, thank you. It's great having you back on, and we look forward to your contribution to the episode. To start things off, I'm going to share a classic poem for the episode. This poem is going to be by Christina Rossetti. She's an English poet born December 5th, 1830 in London, and died on December 29th, 1894 in London. She wrote romantic, devotional, and children's poems, as well as two well-known Christmas carols, at least over in the other side of the pond there, including The Bleak Midwinter and Love Came Down at Christmas. I know I've heard of The Bleak Midwinter because it was put to music by Holst, and that was something I got to listen to in college. She was the sister of Dante Gabriele Rossetti, a prominent artist and poet of the time. And her work, The Goblin Market and Other Poems, was well received during her time. And she was a published poet and well received by the critics during her time. And the poem that I'm going to share is actually from that collection. And it's called No Thank You, John. I never said I loved you, John. Why will you tease me day by day and wax a weariness to think upon with always do and pray? You know I never loved you, John. No fault of mine made me your toast. Why will you haunt me with a face as wan as shows an hour-old ghost? I dare say Meg or Moll would take pity upon you if you'd ask, and pray don't remain single for my sake, who can't perform that task. I have no heart? Perhaps I have not, but then you're mad to take offense that I don't give you what I have not got. Use your common sense. Let bygones be bygones. Don't call me false, who owed not to be true. I'd rather answer no to 50 Johns than answer yes to you. Let's mar our pleasant days no more, songbirds of passage, days of youth. Catch at today, forget the days before. I'll wink at your untruth. Let us strike hands as hearty friends, no more, no less, and friendship's good. Only don't keep in view ulterior ends and points not understood. An open treaty, rise above, quibbles and shuffling off and on. Here's friendship for you if you like it, but love? No thank you, John. Christina Rossetti.
That's deep to me because it's telling the dude, like, you hear about the Dear John letters that soldiers used to get all the time, but she's being honest about it. She's not trying to hide nothing. She's just being open and real and raw about, look, it's just not there, so quit trying to pursue it.
A couple of those lines were like, that's a pretty good burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided to choose this poem because it might seem odd for me or as a guy to be reading, but I just lately, or even throughout my life, have just talked to a lot of my girlfriends or female friends that have to deal with this as guys that don't get the message that, hey, I'm not interested in you, and they keep bothering them and whatnot. And so this one just kind of struck me as like, here she is saying, look, man, not interested. We can be friends, but hey, if you're looking for something else, I'm not your girl. But I just thought there was something strong about that.
But even sometimes guys can't take that open bluntness from women to say, we're just not interested, but I'll be your friend or your buddy, but that's it. And some guys just can't handle that rejection.
Right. Or they're just too dense to get it. They just won't let go.
True.
All right. Well, from here, we're going to turn it over to Phil to share his poem for the episode.
Okay, I wrote a tanka. If you're not familiar with the tanka, it's kind of like an extended haiku. Check it out. I wrote this. It's called Our Times. We all disagree. We all have an opinion. Let us stay civil. Do not lose friends over it. Friends are greater than a stance. Philip Burgio.
All right, thank you.
That's good, too.
I see too many hear too many instances of somebody unfriending somebody on Facebook because they said something that was contrary to your belief, even though it wasn't a mean contradiction, just like, this is my opinion kind of thing. Too much of that.
I see a lot of that happening now, especially with the politics in the world. And that goes with friends or family. They just quit speaking to each other because we quit agreeing to disagree.
Right.
And put that aside and still look at the other good qualities in a person.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for the old sayings back in the day of like, you don't talk about politics and religion. I'm not saying you can't have open discussion, but look where it's gotten us with social media, where everybody is just saying everything and getting mean and, you know, I don't want to say getting harsh, but you know what I mean?
They do get harsh. They even get ugly too. So
yeah, it's a nice little reminder, Phil, and reminded me of the poem that we just heard from Linda Davenport on episode 66, where she talks about that and the whole protest concept, that you got to kind of keep a peaceful mind and calm mind about it, that you can have your opinion, but you're going to have better discourse with people if you can come at it from a non-flared up perspective.
Come in a peaceful way.
I think if you're going to discuss with somebody, it should be face to face, or even like this is kind of like face to face, and not just type a few sentences that you really don't feel the person's thought behind it.
Most definitely, Phil. Most definitely.
Well, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
I'll let you.
And a side note there, if you're interested in hearing more Tonka, check out episode 50 of You're the Poet. That was the Tonka episode. All right, from here, I'm going to share my poem for the episode. This one I'm pulling out of the vault as part of my Zor Acres collection. As we're getting a little bit of warmer weather here, and this 12 plus inches of snow is finally melting here in Ohio. Plus, we've gotten some rain the last couple of days. The ditches are starting to fill up and flow with water, and it was bringing back memories for me of when I was a child. And I used to do some what I called creeking, like getting in our creek and catching bluegill and tadpoles and turtles, whatever would come out of. I called it the creek, but it was really just a ditch in our front yard that was the runoff from the neighbor's pond. But my brothers and I and some neighborhood friends would play down there a lot and catch crawdads and fish and whatnot. So it was a special time for me as a kid. And so it inspired one of the poems from my Zor Acres collection. And this is written as a basic ballad, just sort of telling the story of the creek.
We had a ditch in our front yard that did the same sort of thing. So I'm anxious to hear this one.
Nice. All right, here it is. It's called The Ditch. An outpour of our neighbor's pond that trickled through our yard, a place in which I was so fond of hunting long and hard. To me this was no simple ditch of water gone to waste, but home to fish and frogs and snails who'd drift by in a haste. With buckets close and net held firm, I'd eye the flowing stream, with hopes of sighting bluegill there who'd from the sunlight gleam. Or maybe see the shrinking tails of tadpoles not yet frogs. I'd splash right in and swoop my net and soak my creaking togs. Quickly to dry land I'd go to see what I had caught, then sort the little critters out in buckets that I brought. Many summer days were spent down in the runoff ditch, with turtles, fish, and crayfish too, who each had their own niche. So though it was a simple ditch where water went to drain, for me it was a special place each time that it would rain. Matthew Burgio.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like the visuals that come in because I can go back to my childhood and think about playing in the creek and chasing after fish and crawdads. And I did all that too.
Between him and his two brothers, we had aquariums and fish bowls with all kinds of critters in it. We had one bluegill that started growing pretty good size. He was very tasty. Now I'm just teasing. So.
Well, I had a turtle in an aquarium, and then my dad had fish. He had the neons and the baby sharks and, you know, all the different kinds of little fish that we could just sit and stare at and watch glow in the dark. And it was pretty cool.
Nice. I thought about getting one of those neon tanks. When I lived in Athens, I had an aquarium set up like that had some bluegill in it. And it was kind of neat. You know, people think of bluegill, that's just like a pond fish, a basic common fish. But you feed them some of that tropical fish stuff that makes the colors come out, and bluegills have a nice shine to them. They've got some pretty colors in them. And I used to buy them like guppies at the local pet store as a treat to give my bluegill.
In my adult years, I had a turtle tank that I had 5 turtles in.
Oh, nice.
It was like a 200-gallon tank.
Oh, wow.
And so I would get feeder fish. And I always would have survivors that the turtles could never catch. And some of them got quite big. I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did.
That's very cool. I had some of that too with the goldfish that would surpass, getting caught or whatever. But yeah, I always love that kind of stuff. We even had my neighbor friend and I, we started our Critters Club when we were doing stuff like this. Good childhood memories.
That's cool.
All right. Well, from here, we're going to turn to our guest portion of the episode. Jodi, you're the poet. Show us what you've got.
Okay. The one that I am going to read is inspired by a place that no longer exists, but only in your mind. It's called My Mama's Hug. A place of comfort, soft as the weight of her arms around a restless heart. A place of love where words never needed to be spoken, where silence was enough. A place of understanding where mistakes were seen but never held against me, where I was just allowed to be. A place of compassion, like sunlight on a winter morning, warmth seeping into bones I didn't know ached. A place of empathy, her eyes holding mine, long enough to say, I know you, always. A place of peace, now folded into memory, like a favorite quilt, worn at the edges, but still soft and still mine. A place I can no longer touch, her arms, soft walls against the world. Love lived there, understanding breathed there, peace whispered in every heartbeat. By Jodi Harsh.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Definitely a nice sentimental poem. Love that line about really looking into the eyes and the I know you always. That line struck me.
She was the best, and she's been gone 18 years as of January 29th. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about her.
I understand. I know my mom passed away, hasn't been 18 years, but just in 2022. But it's amazing the little things that'll strike you. I've had some moments this past week just watching the Olympics. It's kind of making me tear up now as I think about it. But yeah, my mom used to love watching the Olympics, whether it was the skating or the curling. And so there have been some moments. Actually, the biggest moment this week was hockey. And a lot of the NHL players, they play for their respective countries. And so the U.S. opened theirs versus Latvia. And, we had a Blue Jackets player, which Columbus Blue Jackets are sort of the local team here in Ohio. And we had a player on the U.S. team. But the goalie for the other team was the Blue Jackets goalie, Merzlinkas. And that was my mom's favorite player, or one of her favorite players. I even bought her a jersey right before she passed away. And so I was kind of chuckling to myself that I said I wouldn't be surprised. I could see Mom rooting for Latvia just because Merzlinkas,
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Merzlinkas was the goalie. I'm at the casino watching this at my job, and I'm like tearing up just having this thought about my mom. So you never know what's going to strike you or hit you or bring back those fond memories.
When I cook, I think of my mom a lot, how she would do it, how much herbs or spices she would add, using her old recipes.
Yeah, I still use my mama's recipes. I was blessed enough to have my grandmother wrote a recipe book for my mom of her stuff. And Mom wanted it before my grandmother passed, but my mom passed before my grandmother did.
Oh.
So I actually got a copy of my mom and my grandma's cookbooks, which makes me think about them both all the time.
That's amazing, and hopefully something you can carry on.
I'm a decent cook. I mean, I haven't killed nobody yet, so I'm doing something right.
I have one little story about his mother's cooking. Years ago, I had surgery and I was laid up in bed. And when I finally got out of bed to sit down and have dinner with the kids, Matthew, 5 years old or something, looks over and goes, "Are you going to die from that?" I says, "Your mom's cooking's not that bad." And that broke everybody up. That broke the ice.
That's too cute. The innocence of a child is just amazing sometimes.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Jodi, got another one for us.
Yes, I do. And this one is called Imagine. The reason I wrote this is because even myself as a poet, sometimes we just tend to focus on dark things because it's a healing for us. It's a type of journaling for us. But Imagine holds something else different. Imagine if we all held on to our happiness and joy the way we cling to our heartache. If we replayed laughter the way we replay last words. If we protected good moments like they might leave us without warning. Imagine if joy had weight, if it stayed in the body the way pain does. settling into bones, refusing to be forgotten. If we gripped laughter with white knuckles, replayed it at 3 a.m., the way we replay everything that broke us. Imagine if joy bruised us, stayed lodged in the body, heavy in the chest, impossible to shake, refusing to leave even when we begged it to. We memorize pain. We build rooms around it. We let it move in, eat at our table, and sleep in our bed. Imagine choosing light with that same obsession. Imagine not letting it go just because it felt unfamiliar or undeserved or too good to trust. Imagine surviving and not punishing yourself for it. What would we look like if we learned to carry light with the same devotion we give our wounds? Imagine. By Jodi Harsh.
Wow, thank you.
That was good. I really like that. Good flow, good images, good thoughts. Good poem, Jodi.
Thank you.
Yeah, just an amazing message right off the beginning. Like, talking about the if we could cling on to our happiness like we do the sad things and the depression. Like, the message of this poem is so powerful and, well, so true. Like you mentioned at the very beginning, is poets who are using this as a healing process. A lot of times we tend to focus and dwell in the darkness, so to speak. And this is such a great message for clinging on to the positive.
Right. I try to get positive out there, but sometimes you just get in those ruts and all you can think about is the negative. And I've been trying to change my thought process and stuff to help eliminate that.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, the message that you're talking about, you're trying to put the positive out there because sometimes we're focused on the negative. As I mentioned with our guest, Elias Kane, a few episodes back, that sometimes it just depends where you are in your life, that we're writing in the moment, and hopefully things will change and get better as time goes on. Or as my cousin likes to say, this too shall pass. So sometimes I think our poetry is just a reflection of the time and where we are, and hopefully it's not all negative.
Yeah, and it's all on your thought process and how you can process everything.
Right.
All right, well, before we do another poem, Jodi, do you have any updates you want to tell us about what you've been up to since your last time on You're the Poet? I know you joined us for Around the Table, but haven't had you back on since, I believe, episode 29.
Correct. Well, I've had some health setbacks, which have caused me to put things on the back burner. But my cousin has dubbed herself my project manager now, and she is determined that I get published this year, hopefully within the next few months. I have 4 poetry pages. On Facebook, I have My Harsh Words and Harsh Words Poetry from the Souls of Life, and then Harsh Words Haiku Only. So it's a page strictly dedicated to haiku. And then I also have a Tumblr page, which is My Harsh Words. And I was ecstatic because I finally broke the 1,000-follower barricade on Facebook on My Harsh Words page.
Hey, congrats.
So I was ecstatic about that. Some people who were resistant to my poetry, because they're just, quote, not into it, have asked me to write poems about them or for them now. So I feel like I'm making some progress. Some of those are family members, so that really meant a lot to me that they're finally coming around and realizing that this isn't just a hobby for me, it's a passion.
It's funny, you talk about passion, and one of my friends just posted on Facebook about the word passion, and that it actually, if you look at the etymology of the word, it comes from the word suffering, and a passion is like, what is it that you would suffer for? And that's kind of where passion comes from. And I thought that was very interesting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, me neither.
That is interesting, especially because you see so much passion in poetry that, yeah, that's incredible.
When you think about it, that movie, The Passion of Christ, it was about the suffering of Christ.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. As a Catholic, as a Christian, it's something I should have, I guess, already been aware of. We hear about the Passion of Christ. They talk about the suffering and what he's going through. But yeah, when you think about that for the things that you're passionate about, I was like, that's interesting. What would you suffer for? What are you so into that you would suffer for? So I thought that was cool. And congratulations on all that. We'll share some of your links. And I'm glad you're making an impact on people, including family members.
Yeah, it's exciting for me.
I was just thinking, too, what this episode is missing? Bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have time to get Bubbles on here today.
Well, tell her we say hi.
I surely will.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, we had Bubbles on here last time.
Yeah, she was my moral support team that day. I was so nervous.
Well, look at you coming a long way.
But you guys make it so easy that it's a joy to be on here.
Hey, it's us. That's what we do.
I'm going to imagine that. I'm going to stay in that moment of joy.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I always tell people that are thinking about being on the podcast, as people that I reach out to as potential guests, that I try to tell them we try to keep it as easygoing as possible, that we're not uptight or strict or ultra professional. We're just trying to sit around and share poetry. You know, we want our guests to be comfortable. We're all everyday people here, you know.
I got that.
Okay, Jodi, give us your third poem.
Okay, I wrote this in December right before Christmas. And I was just looking at the decorations and stuff and just got inspired. It's called Human Christmas Lights. I am the human version of tangled Christmas lights. Not broken, not useless, just twisted from being handled too fast by hands that didn't know how to be gentle. I was folded into boxes I didn't fit, wrapped around expectations that weren't mine, pulled tight by people who mistook control for care. Maybe one light is out, maybe a few. But that doesn't erase the glow I still carry. It doesn't make me wasted or done. Every knot tells the truth of a moment I stayed when I should have been held, of a time someone pulled instead of pausing. They look at me and see chaos. I look closer and see light. Patient, waiting for gentle hands to take their time to replace what burned out without shame. I still shine, not because I was fixed, but because I was finally treated with care. By Jodi Harsh.
All right, thank you.
I like that one. It's good visuals. You're visualizing the person and the lights and how the person acts like the lights.
Right. And, sometimes we all get burnout. We have burnout moments, but if somebody takes time to look at us and just pause for a minute and say, hey, let me replace that light and I'll help you glow a little bit brighter, the world would be such a better place.
Amen.
Definitely. And I love the whole concept of the poem. It's a unique analogy, comparing people to a tangled mess of Christmas lights. I thought that was great. And you do a good job, like Phil said, with the imagery and the way that's all described.
Thank you. I think I rewrote that thing 15 times before I liked it.
That was good, though. All right. Well, before we move on, is there anything else you'd like to say about your poetic journey or poetry in general?
Well, I just turned 56. I've been writing since I was about 15, and I still have journals from when I was 15. So it is a passion of mine and something that I do try to do every day, at least one poem, if not more, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. But it is something that I just truly enjoy.
And I think you're doing a wonderful job with that.
I appreciate that, Matt.
I have some poetry somewhere. It's not on this computer. It might be written down in a notebook somewhere that I got to start digging out because I referenced it today and I go like, I wrote a poem about that and I can't remember where I put it.
I've done that before too. It's like, I know I just wrote this. Now I can't find the notebook I wrote it in.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's something you don't think about. I know even for me in my younger days, I did a very less strict of a job of keeping track of my poetry. Because you're not thinking about it. You're like, well, I'm writing a poem in the moment. You're not thinking that, hey, eventually I'm going to be writing a lot of these and I might want to keep track of the collection and what I'm doing with them. So I was probably a good almost 10 years into it before I was like, I need to start keeping track of these and making sure I've got record of them and things like that. So I've tried to do much better with putting all that together.
Yeah, that's one thing I've done in my journals and stuff is I've always, whenever I finish a poem, when I go back and finally say, okay, this is it, I put the date that I did it.
Yep.
Which I started doing that maybe the late 80s, early 90s. My poetry goes back years. And what I think is interesting is how you see your growth and how you wrote back then compared to what you're doing now.
Definitely. Yeah, and the dating thing, I'm the same way. It wasn't until I started writing, at least on my own, like in the late 1990s. And it probably wasn't until the earlier mid-2000s that I started putting dates on my work. Some of my earlier works, I kind of know like years that I wrote them. Like I could say, oh, I was a junior or senior in high school or something like that, but I don't have exact dates for a lot of them as I tried to chronologically put them together like a decade later.
Yeah, and that's hard to do because I'm good to remember yesterday. let alone something from 10 years ago.
Right.
It's like, what did I eat last night? Did I even eat last night? Some days are just like that.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, as we move on, I've got just a little bit of feedback to share. This actually comes from episode 64 guest Elias Kane concerning his episode. I don't do a lot of feedback that we get from our guests, at least about their specific episodes, but I thought it'd be nice to share this to show that our guests are appreciating what we're doing. So this is from Elias Kane. He says, "It's great, once I got over hearing my own voice. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. I've had a lot of positive feedback from friends and family, mostly because they didn't really know I took the writing seriously. I've shared the link on TikTok and on Facebook, so hopefully you guys get some traffic from that. I also want to say thank you to both of you for the positive feedback on my poems and helping me feel less like an imposter. You have also inspired me to share my work further. I have entered into 5 national competitions with the poem I Walk Alone. I appreciate you guys and what you do." So thank you, Elias. We definitely appreciate that and look forward to hearing more from you on You're the Poet and on these other platforms that you're putting your work out there on. As we wrap things up, we want to let our listeners know we are grateful that you've taken the time to tune in. We hope you're enjoying the poetry shared here, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. If you would like to support You're the Poet and what we're doing here, there are a couple of ways to help. You can find links on our website to our Buy Me a Coffee patron site, as well as our You're the Poet store, where you can buy You're the Poet merchandise and share your love of poetry with the world. Thank you for your support as we continue to grow. Please check out our website and various social media outlets to keep up to date with You're the Poet. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our website, you'rethepoet.com. Until next time, Phil, thank you for joining us.
Anytime. Jodi, good to see you again.
You too, Phil. And real quick, Elijah, was that his name?
Elias or Eli?
Elias. Okay, it took me a minute to get over here in my voice too, so I don't like the way I sound to myself. So I get where he's coming from on that.
Me too. As I was doing a little bit of editing the other day, my wife was like, "Your voice sounds so weird on a recording."
That's true love.
All right. Well, Jodi, thanks for coming back and being our guest.
Thanks for thinking about me, Matt. I appreciate it. And Bill, I appreciate you too.
All right. Well, thank you both. Goodbye.